Are you a beginner guitar player that wants to be able to play really good guitar solos, improvise, or have you already been noodling in your minor pentatonic scale and you're not really sure what to do with it? Let's get into it. If you don't know, my name is Ryan Gaughan. I've been helping guitar players for over 20 years really bridge the gap between their creative ideas and what they're able to play, getting out of that sort of boring, boxy, robotic guitar solo plateau that we all get into. If you would, please hit subscribe and the bell notification to get more videos on how to make your guitar playing better. All right. What we want to do is we want to focus on our minor pentatonic scale. There is a PDF in the description that'll give you the spelling. Now the spelling is numeric. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. And then it starts over again. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3. And I'm here in my A minor pentatonic. That's where I'm going to be for this lesson. All right. Now, those numbers, we don't really have to get into the why of the numeric spelling so much, but the numbers are really derived from the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. All right, that we learned. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our major scale. Now, pent, 5. The pentatonic has 5 notes, right? And it's minor. So some of these are changing. So that's why it's 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. All right. That's all you need to know about that. Just look at that spelling, that PDF, and notice where the 1s, the flat 3s, the 4s, and the 5s are. And it goes right in order. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. And it starts over. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. And then that 8th fret on your bottom E string there is the flat 3. All right, this is really important because each one of those numbers is going to sound a little bit different. All right, and this is going to be the first thing that we get into. We don't want to just sort of run the scale up and down, right, with no aim. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on the last note of the phrase that we're playing. So we're going to play a group of notes, and we're really going to focus on the last one. Okay, so if I were to play this scale, every time I get to a 1, it sounds very settled. Right? That's my root note. That's my 1. All right? So we can make that a conscious decision now. If I play a grouping of notes and I land on that 1, wherever it says 1 on that scale diagram, I'm gonna feel like I'm settled. All right. I just want you to try. This is gonna be a little interactive, so I'm just gonna play this, and all I want you to do is play that minor pentatonic scale up, play the 1, and land on it, and try to give yourself a little time to listen, and then get up to the next one. Right? There's only those 3. Every time you get to the 1, just land on it and hold it and see if you can feel and hear it's sort of like finalized and comfortable. All right, try it. If you can't make that connection with your ear now, that's totally fine. I just want to see if you can make that connection. So here we go. Go ahead. Rewind that little part and just do that over and over and over. That's really nice. That's going to be the main listening part of this, right? It's just to hear that root note. And that's what generally happens first when we start listening to what we're playing. We're not just thinking like, oh my gosh, what scale am I doing? Where do I put my fingers, right? That gets like a little overwhelming. All right, well, let's do this. Let's just take these bottom 2 strings, okay? So we have 5, 8 on the B string, the second string, and 5, 8 on the E string, the bottom string. Nice and easy. Where is my root note? My 1 is the 5th fret of the E string. I want you to try playing a grouping of notes that ends on the 5 of that E string. And it does not matter what the grouping of notes is or how long it is. It could just be I'm just going up the scale from the 5th fret of the B string, and I'm just landing on that note. I'll do it again. All right, cool. Right? Can I play something a little bit different? I'm just going up the scale. All right, cool. Can I do something else? I just played that 2nd note, the 8th fret of my B string, a few times before getting. So it's really just that 5, 8 on the B string, and then 5 on my E, but I'm playing that 8 on the B string a couple more times. All right, I want you to try just a couple of those right now. Go ahead. Nice and easy. We're just on those bottom 2 strings, and we're just aiming for that 5 on the E string. Make it nice and easy. Rewind and go through it. That's great. Now we're developing a phrase that feels nice and finalized. It's really great. Landing on the 1, okay? What I want to try now is we're going to create an emotional arc, okay? So what that means is we're feeling settled. It feels nice. That feels nice. If I keep ending on that root note, on the 1. But I want to build a little bit of tension, a little bit of an emotional arc. I don't want to just feel comfortable. I want to feel a little tense, a little excited, and then bring it down and feel comfortable. This is how we're going to do it. Same, we're just on the bottom 2 strings. The notes that are next to the 1, right? If that's my 1, the note before it in the scale and after it in the scale is the flat 7 before it and the flat 3 after it. If you look at your scale diagram, okay? The note before every single 1 is going to be a flat 7 in the scale, and the note after every 1 is going to be a flat 3. So those notes create an emotional tension, right? Because it's like close but not close enough, right? So what I can do, if I'm just on these bottom 2 strings, those notes are the 8th fret of my B string, that's my flat 7 if you look at your diagram, and then the 8th fret of the E string is my flat 3. This is going to create some tension there. Right? So I could play a lick, a grouping of notes, a phrase that ends on either one of those notes. All right? And that's going to create a little bit of tension. Right? So if I have, all I'm doing is 5, 5, 8 on the B string. That's it. All right? That ends on that flat 7 if you look at your diagram. Right? One of the tension notes. Remember the flat 7 and flat 3. It's a little easy to see because they're the only ones that have a flat before the number, right? So that's it. 5, 5, 8 in the B string. Cool. Gives me a little tension. I'm going to do the exact same lick and then just add the 1. 5 on the E string. That's all I'm doing. It's the same lick. Give a little room. Try it. Go ahead. I'm going to play this. Just try that. It's okay if you can't hear it yet. Now, we're going to do the same lick on the E string. If I do 5, 5, 8, right, on the E string, that's my flat 3. Cool. Same exact lick. Go back to 5. That's my 1. All right, 5 on the E string. Try that. Hear a little bit of that tension when you end on that 8. When you end on those tension notes, give a little space before you start it again. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop there. Now, what you have is 5, 5, 8 on the B, 5, 5, 8 on the E string. Right? And those are your tension notes. And then you play the exact same thing, whatever lick you played, and then add your root note. That's your tension, and then your release, back to your resolve, your home base, your root note, your 1, okay? And that's all you're going to do, all right? This is where it gets a little bit creative, because I can take those groupings of notes, right? Okay, well, how am I going to make that more creative? Play the notes back and forth and a few more times. Perfect. I'm not adding any more notes to the phrase. It's still just 5 and 8 on my B string. That's all I'm doing. And then same exact thing and resolve it. I can do that here. My tension and resolve. I can go back and forth. Getting a little bit creative without having to think like, oh my gosh, I have all these notes of the scale. What am I going to do? No. That's it. Just the 5 and 8 on the B to give you tension, and then 5, 8 on the E to give you tension, and then always coming back, right? This is the call and response, right? This is really great too, because this starts to develop the part of your brain that can repeat the same phrase. Same phrase. We're just resolving it, all right? We want to play the same exact phrase, okay? That's going to be so beneficial when we go further down the road, okay? So try a bunch of those, all right? I have the backing track is in the description. You just go ahead, you click on the backing track, and you just try those over and over and over. That's the concept. So now we don't have to go heavily through the concept, but if I now take it to these middle 2 strings, so now I have 5, 7 on the D string, 5, 7 on the G string, the 3rd string. So 5, 7 on the 4th string, the D, 5, 7 on the 3rd string, the G. Now, that 7 on the D string, the 4th string, is going to be my 1 if you look at your diagram. The note before it, the 5, is going to be my flat 7. The note after it, the 5 on the G string, is my flat 3. Look at that diagram, see if that makes sense, okay? 5 on the D string is a flat 7. 7 on the D string is the 1. 5 on the G string is a flat 3. And then the 7 on the G string is a 4, okay? Now, if I do the same concept, play a small grouping of notes that ends on a flat 3, let's say, right? The 5th fret of the G string. That's all I'm doing. 7, 7, 5, 7, 5 on the G string. That's all I'm playing. I can do it again. And then add the 1 to resolve it. Okay, my tension. Drive it up. There we go. Bring it down and resolve. All right, we do a bunch of those. I can do it right here on my D string. Right, so just 7, 7, 5, 7, 5 on the D. That ends on my flat 7. And then again. And then add the root note to resolve. And then same idea, right? Do I want to just do... Okay, it doesn't matter. We're just aiming for the ending note of that. And then resolve, right? You can get as creative as you would like, right? And then same thing if I just move down here, my 1 on the E string, I'm doing 2 strings at a time. My 1 on the E string, that's my 1, okay? Or my 5th fret on my low E string, my top string here. That's my 1, my 6th string, 5th fret. And then 8 is my flat 3. And then I have a 4, 5. So I only have 1 tension note, and that's 8 on the E string. So... and then add my resolve, okay? If we're looking at this as all 6 strings for this scale, it gets really overwhelming. But if you notice, if I play a solo like this, and I'm constantly moving around this scale, it's too jumpy, right? Where if I stay in one place, it sounds a little bit more cohesive, and then I can move. Now I have options on these 2 strings, and these 2 strings, and then I know where I am. I know where those root notes are, where those tension notes are, and I can now move around the whole scale. All right, so that's where we're ending this particular place, is go to that backing track and try that. See if you can be comfortable knowing where the ones are. You're creating your phrases. Can you move around the scale a little bit? You don't have to just play one. And then don't feel like you have to move through that quickly. You can stay on 2 strings for a while. When you're ready, if you are not ready, stay on just the bottom 2 strings over and over and over and over. The middle 2 strings over and over and over and over and over. The top 2 strings over and over and over and over and over, right? We really want to train this. I promise. This is what helps. This is what works. So we have that backing track. There's more than enough to do, and that's sort of this tension and release, call and response. That's all we're going to focus on for right now. If I can now get into the next part, which is going to be like, all right, how am I going to make some of this sound better, right? Is sort of thinking of what we're afraid of when we're starting to improvise, as well as what we're doing when we sound boring and just running up and down the scale. So if you have been playing your minor pentatonic and you've been practicing it, sounds something like this. Right, up and down. And then when somebody plays something and it's your turn to solo, really doing much of anything. It sounds like we're just running up and down the scale again. So what can we do that doesn't sound like running up and down the scale? Space is going to be a huge one. Now, we've already been implementing space. That's how we know we're playing one phrase, tension, space, and then the response. Cool. All right. So we're working with space. Just do not be afraid of space. This is a conversation. Music is a language, right? The guitar is just the voice that we're speaking that language through, or singing that language through, if that's the way we're looking at it. So if we're not creating space, and it's like talking to someone that's nervous, and they don't like pauses, they fill everything with ahs and ums. If I don't, it's not going anywhere, right? That's this. There's no reason behind, I'm not saying anything. Just like, right? I'm not saying anything. We need to be saying something. Take a breath. It's okay. Pauses are great. Not like when I played that second lick, you have no idea what I'm doing, right? Or that it doesn't sound like the first one, you know? It's there. So do not be afraid of that space. We need to use it to really show where those phrases are. That's where our punctuation is, you know. It's just like learning a new language. When you're learning a new language, you want that person to say like, how are you? Stop there, you know. Like, I'm good. Stop there, you know. Eventually we can put all of this together, and that's where when we have something that's not just rambling up and down. That's phrases with punctuation, right, that are just strung together, okay? Just like when you hear somebody speaking in another language and it's like, like it just sounds like they're going. That's what happens when you're speaking. You listening to me right now know where the punctuation is. You know where the phrases end. You know where the sentences end. You know where the paragraphs end, and when they restart. If you don't know the language, you don't, and it just sounds like a bunch of syllables, like shotgun. So that's what we're developing here. We're developing that skill, because when you hear like that little solo that I just did, to us in the beginning it sounds like this, but it's not. It's very specific phrases strung together. For now, to make sure that we're really utilizing that, we need to use space. So don't be afraid of it. Repetition as well. Now, we've been going through phrase repetition, which is huge. And that is something that guitar players are afraid of when they're in their beginner improvisational journey or just starting their minor pentatonic or whatever it is they think this is boring. But that sounds much better than I'm not saying anything here, right? So that first part does sound better. Now, of course, we can build on that first part and build on that first part. I already gave the example, right? And stringing these together and playing faster and what have you. We can't build on that second part. The only thing that we can do is go faster. Still doesn't sound any better, right? So that's the skill is in the first part, okay? So repeating those phrases. This is the other thing. When we want to get creative in our phrases, let's say I have something like this, right? Just 5-8-8 on my second string. It's my tension. And then I do it again. And I resolve it. We're like, I want to add more. Oh, what should I do? You could, but there's no reason not to repeat the same notes, right? I'll give you a little bit of a more open example. If I play, how many times I hit that note in this phrase, Let's see if I can play it exactly like I do. That note happens so many times, both in a row and coming back to it. So don't be afraid. That gets us, if we're afraid of that, into the rambling up and down my solo or scale. When you're playing up and down the scale, you're always moving to the next note, whether it's up or down. And then now we're doing we can sort of do these waves of up, back a little bit, up more, back a little bit, up, back. It's not changing anything. Just play the same note. So if I have, it's 3 notes, 5-8-8 on the B string, I could do, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that phrase, Get comfortable doing it with just those 2 notes, and then of course adding, the root note for the resolve. Get comfortable doing that with 2 notes. And then when you start moving around the scale, it's not going to sound like you're just rambling and rambling and rambling. So that is a great way to develop your creativity. The last part, rhythm. All right, the thing that makes our solos sound the most boring is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and, right? We're not doing anything interesting. All right, if you need to, put a metronome on, tap your foot with the metronome and play a couple of notes on the metronome beat, a couple of notes not on the metronome beat. If you tap your foot with the metronome, some on the foot tap, right? You can kind of see where my foot's tapping here. Fine, right? It's just not... I can make some notes shorter, some notes longer. It's just going to make it more interesting. So if I take that, I can do... All right? It's going to sound way more interesting. So mess with your rhythm. Make sure you're not stuck in 1 and 2. Now, where we do get stuck at some point in there is because we're thinking note choice and moving around the scale. We take that away. Just say, I'm only doing 2 notes. I'm just going to do them back and forth and repeat the same. All right. Now it's like, oh, I can really mess with this rhythm. Sure. We're so far into a better sounding solo than just rambling up and down. So, I'm going to end there. You have all of this to work with the backing track. That's in the description. And the PDF, of course, that's down there. We want to be creating space, which you're doing. That's how we know where those phrases begin and end. Eventually, you're going to be able to put those together, and they're going to sound good, and we're developing paragraphs rather than phrase, phrase, phrase. But we have to do phrase, 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 phrase for now. We can't jump to paragraph. That's where we get the boring going nowhere, okay? People that try to jump right to the paragraph. Let's develop these phrases a little bit better. Space, okay? More interesting rhythms, so it's not okay? Just longer notes, shorter notes, longer notes, shorter notes is the best way to do it, okay? Repetition. We're repeating our phrases for now, okay? This is such a great skill. And then repeating the same note. You don't always have to go to the next note, you know? I think the perfect example is that 5/8, right? If I do, already in just that example, I'm hitting the 8 twice. But if I want to really develop that lick, that's not really going to work. That is, because I stayed on that note more. It sounds a little bit more cohesive, okay? So repeating the phrases we're doing, but also the same note to develop more of that lick, that easy lick that we're doing. And then, of course, the tension and release that we're working on now, okay? This is so much to work with, all right? And I really, really hope it helps. Now, if you're doing this and you love it, and your goal is to really become fully fretboard fluent, you know, jam out, know exactly what to play, when to play it, any little creative thought that you have in your head, you can sort of speak it through the guitar fluently with no friction. If that is truly your goal, then there is a link below that you can book a free consultation call to see if you're ready for our Fretboard Fluency Mentorship Program. This is a training. I decided to put it up for free. This is a training that I give people when they're in the beginner phases and they really want to join the mentorship program because they really just want to be completely fluent on the guitar, right? And create the best solos they possibly can, the best songs that they possibly can, the best compositions they possibly can, improvise the best that they can in any situation, right? Any jam session with any friends at any skill level. This takes you to a professional skill level, right? I promise you. The results are guaranteed in this mentorship program. This is what I give people when they're not quite ready and they need to work up to it. If you go through this video, you love it, this is what you want to do. You can book a free consultation call below. There's a Calendly link. Just jump right on. You can book that call. We can see if you're right for the mentorship program. If there's any other homework that you need to do, of course, that would be for free, you know, that I'll give you to see if you're ready. So do that. I hope that this helped. This is something that you can just work on over and over and over. And this is sort of that pre-mentorship phase that takes you through absolutely everything and becoming fully fretboard fluent at a professional level. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.